New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Live from a secure concrete bunker somewhere in Ohio, New Thought Media Network presents Pastor Michael Mangus with Friday's Fireside Chat, spiritual conversation for today. Here he is from the secret radio room, surrounded by thousands of watts, Pastor Michael Mangus.
There I am. That goes out to you, Diego. Well, good evening, everyone from across the United States and also around the world. It is time once again for another fun-filled, thrill-packed, and guaranteed, always exciting edition of the Fireside Chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I am Pastor Michael Mangus, and I am broadcasting this evening from the super secret radio room, surrounded by thousands, and I mean thousands of watts, in the secure concrete bunker somewhere in Akron, Ohio, that is so top secret. It requires a high level of security even to get near it. And even know that our chief inspirational officer, the Reverend Robert Brzezinski, he thinks he knows where it's at, but he has no clue on where my super secret secure broadcast facility is located. We have a great show for you this evening. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to interact with us by posting your comments below on Facebook. Also, if you are familiar with StreamYard, that's how we get your name up on the, that's how we are allowed to broadcast your name when we go ahead and we put it on the screen. But for all the shy people out there, and I know that there's a few of you out there, please feel free to contact me by email. And that's pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. Would love to interact with you during the week. The purpose of our Fireside Chat weekly is to talk about contemporary issues from a New Thought perspective. And as I keep saying over and over again, I want us all to have a new thought about all that's going on around us, not only here in the United States, but also around the world. And again, as I keep saying, you do not have to agree with me. I bring up these topics to make you think, to think deeply about your own spirituality, your connection to God or all that is. So I want you to also ask yourself a question. If we're all one, as taught in our centers, if we're all connected on some level, what is my role in bringing about a world that does work for everyone? We have a really special guest in our green room currently. She was recommended to us by our friend, Reverend Donna Christina Parks, aka Reverend Shoes, minister, author, and also faculty member at the Emerson Theological Institute, the Reverend Dr. April Moncrieff. She'll be speaking on her book called The Principles of New Thought, as well as her other wonderful writings, which are all on Amazon, including a cool children's book, which we'll talk about. Marvin the Money Cat to teach our little ones prosperity principles. How wonderful is that? So we'll have on Dr. April here about 1:30. But first, we have a memo from the security team. It says, to Pastor Michael from your security team, the subject being your move to the new and improved super secret concrete bunker. And this is what my chief of security wrote me. He says, as we have told you in the past, your current secure concrete bunker was built in the 1960s and has some design flaws that we have detected. Because of this, your security team has built for you a brand new state-of-the-art concrete bunker that you will be moving into in the next couple of weeks. Your brand new, super secure and encrypted internet service will not be installed, though, until September 20th. Thank you, Spectrum. We are advising you to have your studio and radio equipment moved into the new concrete bunker sometime between September 13th through the 19th. Thank you for your cooperation. Signed, the head of your security, nameless. So anyhow, this is our last broadcast from this concrete bunker that has served us very well for over a year. So next week, the crack technical team from the New Thought Media Network, who have all signed NDAs, those are non-disclosure agreements, will be moving my studio and the equipment to the brand new super secret state-of-the-art concrete bunker somewhere in the Akron, Ohio area. So what that means is that next week, we will have another best of the Friday evening fireside chat. And hopefully the following week, the crack technical team will have me all set up with double the current internet speed. How cool is that? And a phone line of which we'll be able to take phone calls in studio. How neat is that? And yes, we still will not tell our chief inspirational officer here at New Thought Media Network, the Reverend Robert Brzezinski, where the super secret concrete bunker is located. Oh, I'm glad you're all with us this evening. Again, please comment. We would love to have you interact with us tonight. I would be remiss if I did not talk about this. Tomorrow is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. From Wikipedia, the September 11 attacks, also referred to as 9/11, were a series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the militant Islamic group Al-Qaeda against the U.S. on the morning of Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001. On that morning, 4 commercial airliners traveling from the Northeast United States to California were hijacked mid-flight by 19 Al-Qaeda terrorists. The hijackers were organized into 3 groups of 5 hijackers and 1 group of 4. Each group had 1 hijacker who received flight training and took over the controls of the aircraft. Their explicit goal was to crash each plane into a prominent American building. The first plane to hit its target was American Airlines Flight 11. It was flown into the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan at 8:46 a.m. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., the World Trade Center South Tower was hit by United Airlines Flight 175. Both 110-story towers collapsed within an hour and 42 minutes, leading to the collapse of the other World Trade Center structures, including 7 World Trade Center, and significant damage on the surrounding buildings. A third flight, which was American Airlines Flight 77, flown from Dulles International Airport was hijacked over Ohio. At 9:37 a.m., it crashed into the west side of the Pentagon in Arlington County, Virginia, causing a partial collapse on the building's side. The fourth and final flight, which was United Airlines Flight 93, was flown in the direction of Washington, D.C. This flight was the only plane not to hit its intended target, and instead it crashed in a field nearby Shanksville, Pennsylvania. That is a location that's about an hour and a half south of Pittsburgh at 10:03 a.m. The attacks resulted in 2,977 fatalities, over 2,500 injuries, and substantial long-term health consequences. So where were you on 9/11? Can you remember back? Now, at the time, I was working at the Summit County Treasurer's Office, and I volunteered to be a part of a skeleton crew because everyone else left. They were so upset by it. So myself and I think it was our chief deputy and our chief accountant and myself, we were the last ones in the building that day up until 2 o'clock. I think what happened was this, and what upset most people was that our sense of safety here in the United States was completely shattered. And yours truly made the local paper. When I was researching for a talk at our local religious science center in Cleveland, and this lady with this huge lens came by and she says, "Can I take your picture?" And the article was on how people were coping with the events of 9/11 through bibliotherapy or the reading of books on grief and also on trauma. So what's our new thought solution? We need to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are divinely protected no matter what happens. That peace that passes all understanding is always there. That's why I always like the prayer of protection from the unity tradition. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Another tool that we can use to heal trauma is always forgiveness. And our prayers this weekend are with the families who lost loved ones on that day. So in the news, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks since we've been radio silent and we were not live. We will start with, again, still dominant in the news. COVID-19 is still front and center, especially with the elementary, middle, and high schools across the U.S. going back to live classes. What we're covering here from CNN. CNN conducted a dozen interviews with parents, students, and adults around the country to find out how they were feeling about returning to physical school and workplaces as the Delta variant wreaked havoc across the U.S. More than 55,000 children have been hospitalized with COVID-19 since August 2020, according to CDC data. And again, while childhood COVID-19 deaths are still rare, thank goodness, that number is increasing. What the hospitals have seen this week is an increase in their youth population because of COVID. As of Wednesday, at least 520 children have died, the CDC said this week. So More than 400 colleges and universities are now requiring students to be vaccinated before returning to campus. While some universities expect students to be fully vaccinated by the time that they arrive on campus, others only announced their requirement policies in the past few weeks and will allow students to receive an inoculation by a certain date. Many of these universities also have vaccine exemption applications for students with religious or medical opposition to get vaccinated, but students' students opposed, there you go, to the vaccine could face disciplinary action or be barred from enrolling if they do not prove proof of vaccination and are not exempt according to the policies at Duke and also the University of California system. And as I talked about a couple of weeks ago, that many people were applying, Catholics, to the Catholic Church for an exemption. And all of those have been turned down. All of them. Many big businesses are now asking for their employees to be vaccinated. And some of those are Google, Facebook, Walmart, also Disney, and also the Union Square Hospitality Group. Those are the folks that do a lot of the hotels in and around Times Square. I also saw several articles this week from and about ministers, bishops, cardinals, right-wing talk show hosts, either fighting for their lives or who have died. And again, this is pretty close to my heart. I don't want to see anyone die, especially someone who is in the radio business. And my count so far is 4. 4 talk show hosts have died so far of COVID. As I have said over and over again here, I am supporting you to get vaccinated. I am not telling you. There are some people who shouldn't get vaccinated, including people with compromised immune systems, some people who are currently battling cancer. Again, if you're unsure, talk to your doctor or primary physician about that. But the reasons that I've been getting from individuals about not getting vaccinated is not based upon the science. It's based upon pure fear and not fact. This reminds me of a story. And I've told this a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to tell it again, about the person whose house was going to get flooded. You probably have heard the story before. He said, God will save me, when the police came by and said, come on, we need to get you out of here. And the guy said, no, God will save me here. So when the waters flooded out the first floor, a rescue boat came by and told him to get in, and he replied back, oh no, God will save me. Finally, the waters came into the second floor, and the man found himself on the rooftop. And the helicopter came by, and the pilot said, get in. And he said, oh no, he said, God will save me. Finally, unfortunately, the man died and met St. Peter at the pearly gates. He asked St. Peter, where was God when he needed rescued? And St. Pete replied back, God did help you by sending you someone to warn you, a boat to rescue you, and a helicopter to get you off the rooftop. And you ignored all of them. And again, this is a very personal decision. But again, as someone who's been following this closely, who has read peer-reviewed research papers on this, I really believe, again, it is in most people's best interest to get the vaccine. It is proven safe and effective, period. The final approval by the FDA was just recently given to the Pfizer vaccine. Also approval for those 12 years and up to be vaccinated. Who has ended up in the hospitals here? It's been the unvaccinated. Now, yes, there's been some breakthroughs here. I get that. Some people who have caught COVID, but you see, they're not the ones ending up in the hospitals. The ones ending up there are the people who are unvaccinated. Many have died in the ICUs with COVID and denied it up until the very end. So the moral of the story is this here. Unless you've been told specifically by your doctor not to get vaccinated, again, please go out and get your shot or shots here. God has given us a way out of here. So let us take this lifeboat out of the pandemic. Let's not be foolish like some of these other religious folks who, again, are still out in their tents in Tennessee saying that we will not cooperate with the government because we don't want to wear masks. All right. All right. Well, good to have you this evening. This is the Friday evening fireside chat here on the New Thought Media Network. Pastor Michael Mangus is with you here behind the golden Mike Mangus microphone. It's not golden. We're glad to have everyone here this evening. One more story I wanted to comment before we go to break here that has been prominent in the news this week has been the Texas abortion bill. And I really encourage everyone to read this article from the New York Times. It says, here's what the Texas abortion law says. So what they did was they had two very prominent attorneys go through H.R. 8. That's a technical name for the bill. Go through H.R. 8 and dissect it. And I'll just go ahead and read this. It says a new Texas law that the Supreme Court did not block last week has made abortion functionally illegal in the state of Texas. Several other states have tried over the years to limit or ban abortions before fetal viability, but have not managed to maneuver past the courts. So the Texas lawmakers here did so through a unique legal approach. The law bill, which is Senate Bill 8, bans most abortions after about 6 weeks before many women know that they're pregnant, and authorizes not the state, but citizens to enforce it. Abortion providers in Texas say that 85 to 90% of the procedures that they previously performed were after the 6-week mark. To better understand what Senate Bill 8 says, there were two professors that were consulted for this article. That's Mary Ziegler of the Florida State University Law School, and also Melissa Murray of New York University. Professor Murray cautioned that parts of the law were written so vaguely that they could reasonably be subject to a wide range of interpretations. So this is what you need to know about Senate Bill 8 here. And the reason I'm talking about this is because that we have many New Thought centers, also centers for spiritual living, down in Texas. So this is what you need to know here in a abbreviated form. It says almost all abortions are banned. Now, the law makes exemptions for medical emergencies. It does not make exemptions, though, for children or women who are raped. It makes them carry it to full term, according to the state bill. Patients cannot be sued, but guess who can be sued? Everyone else who helps the patient. Few defenses are available. Successful plaintiffs will get $10,000 in their legal fees reimbursed. Lawyers are discouraged from challenging the law, and the bill tries to dictate what the judges can do. So it's not up to the interpretation of the judge. It's up to the interpretation of the bill. And also, if parts of the law fail, the rest stands. So to sum all that up, it is the most restrictive in the country. The Texas abortion law, known as Senate Bill 8, amounts to nearly a complete ban on abortions in the state. It prohibits most abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy and makes no exceptions for pregnancies resulting from incest or rape. Citizens, not the state, will enforce the law. The law effectively deputizes ordinary citizens, including those from outside Texas, and allows them to sue clinics and others who violate the law. It awards them at least $10,000 per illegal abortion if they're successful. Patients cannot be sued, but the law allows this. Listen to this very carefully, clergy friends, practitioner friends. The law allows doctors, staff, and even a patient's Uber driver to become potential defendants. Now, technically, it's going to be pretty hard to prove that you were counseling someone. And again, when I counsel someone, especially about such an issue like abortion, again, my opinion doesn't matter. It's the individual's opinion. My counsel is to trust your inner wisdom. That's what I tell women. But the Supreme Court decision refused just before midnight on Wednesday to block the Texas law, prohibiting most abortions less than a day after it took effect, and became the most restrictive abortion measure in the nation. And again, patients cannot be sued, but those who help a patient can. So if you'd like to look it up, it's section 171-206. There's copies of this bill there online. Please read it. If you are taking someone to an abortion clinic, you could be held liable under Texas law. I wanted to read this because I think that it really kind of sums up, especially I've been online this week talking with individuals about abortion. And I'd like to read this. This is a quote from David Barnhart, who is a traditional Christian pastor. He says, "The unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated, unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or chronically poor. They don't resist your condensation or complain that you are not politically correct, unlike widows. They don't ask you to question patriarchy, unlike orphans. They do not need money, education, or childcare. Like aliens, they don't bring all that radical cultural and religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships. And when they're born, you can forget about them because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if being born, that they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, and without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love. If you want to claim that you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. This is from a Christian pastor here. He sums up by saying prisoners, immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible, they all get thrown under the bus for the unborn. And again, the bottom line here is this. On moral and ethical grounds, I do not support this Texas bill or any other state bill that's similar. They're trying to pass a similar bill here in Ohio. It is the woman's choice. It is not mine. And again, my job as clergy, my job as a spiritual leader is to be loving and supportive here. And again, I really encourage all of my clergy friends down in Texas to read the bill and even get an interpretation by an attorney down there. Go read it in Friday's New York Times. And again, the reason I'm saying it is you may be accused of aiding and abetting one of your members that you've counseled. Well, that's all for the news here. We'll get to our special guest here in just a few moments. A couple of announcements, and then we'll go to a break. Yours truly is currently parking himself at Summit CSL. For more information, please go to summitcsl.org. There you will find all kinds of information about our wonderful Sunday gathering online at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time. Grab your cup of tea or coffee and please join us. We have one of the best services, I really believe, in New Thought because we have a balance of music, message, and meditation. So please join us. We'd love to see you on Sunday mornings. All the Zoom information is on summitcsl.org. So we would love to have you join us on Zoom. This Sunday, we'll continue our series on Back to Spiritual School with a variety of topics. Our speaker this Sunday will be NT Media superstar, Pastor Michael Mangus. I'll be speaking on Sunday. So please go to summitcsl.org for more information on how to join our Zoom call. And our services are also simulcast on the Summit Spiritual Center of Akron Facebook page. Our Facebook page also has past broadcasts of the Fireside Chat and yours truly when he's praying on the New Thought Media Network. Again, I'm currently open for practitioner sessions, Sunday speaking, and also ceremonies. Love doing weddings. I have 3 of them this weekend. 3. So email me at pastormichaelmangus@gmail.com. Go on our wonderful website on ntmedia.org. There we have the full schedule, all the wonderful programs. We even put up some of the ones that we're working in production on, including Sunday Evening Masterclass, which I am producing for the Reverend Dr. Charlotte Manning. Lots of wonderful programs during the week. You get really a wonderful selection of support during the week, of prayer, of midweek pick-me-up, of Saturday morning study of the Science of Mind text. Just some wonderful programs. And what's wonderful about this technology is that we can reach the world through the internet. And we're working on other ways of doing that also. And we would love your support. Please go to ntmedia.org and push the donate button. Again, we're looking for, we're praying for monthly partners, people that will partner with us to take this powerful message to the whole entire earth. So that's ntmedia.org/donate. We would love you to be a part of what we're doing here at this network. Okay. Time for me to shut up. And this is the Friday evening fireside chat here at the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
The Awake Shop by R.Sc.P. Inspiration you can wear. Hats, mugs, hoodies, and tees. Visit theawakeshop.org today.
Check it out. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Noon, Eastern. A healthy dose of Jersey Girl wisdom. Live with Rev Jersey Girl. Sponsored by New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
The views and opinions expressed by Pastor Michael Mangus are generally right. However, they are his own and do not reflect the views and opinions of New Thought Media Network, Centers for Spiritual Living, or any other person living or dead. As they say in the 12-Step Recovery Program, take what you like and leave the rest. Here again is Pastor Michael.
Our special guest this evening was recommended to us by Reverend Donna Christine Park. Reverend Dr. April Moncrieff is an author, teacher, counselor, and lifelong student of metaphysical spirituality. As an ordained New Thought minister by the late Dr. Blaine Mays, who is someone who I was familiar with. She has a diploma in advanced studies from Unity School of Christianity Continuing Ed program. She also holds a master and doctorate degrees from Emerson Theological Institute, where she is an esteemed member of the faculty there. She has taught classes, conducted meditation groups, and lectured on New Thought subjects for many years. She has published poetry in the Unity magazine and has created a blog called Spiritual Seed Thoughts, Applying Truth Principles in Daily Life. In addition to her wonderful book, which was published in 2013, and you can get it online on Amazon. I have that page already up here. Her book is called The Principles of New Thought. And also, she has also several articles on spiritual subjects. She also writes children's fiction with metaphysical themes. Her ebook, entitled Marvin the Money Cat, introduces the idea of recognizing and celebrating the inner source of abundance to young readers. It is my pleasure to introduce to you this evening here on the New Thought Media Network, the Reverend Dr. April Moncrieff. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you, Reverend Michael. Glad to be with you tonight.
Oh, thank you. We really just appreciate you. And so being on this evening. So tell us how a nice woman like you got involved in New Thought.
Well, I actually came by it quite naturally. Both of my parents kind of left the churches in which they were raised, which were more traditional Christianity. And they discovered Dr. Emmett Fox in their years of living in New York City, began attending his services. And I think my mother may have also had actual classes with Florence Scovel Shinn. And so we always had Unity literature around the house. Daily Word was always on my mother's bedside table, and she subscribed to Wee Wisdom for me as a little girl. And I looked forward most of all to the paper dolls on the back of the magazine. But we had Emmett Fox's books all over the house, and I discovered his shorter pieces as a child of 8 years old and began reading them. And I found they were, I came to realize later, he was able to express very profound spiritual principles and teachings in a clear and direct language that even a child could resonate with. And so that's how it happened. It just, to this very day, I think Dr. Fox is a mentor of mine now on the spirit side of life. But I think so often of his teachings, his words, his affirmations, particularly his treatment on the presence and his treatment on divine love, and the other one called the Golden Gate, which is just so wonderful. But again, I don't think metaphysical teachings have to be verbose or expressed in very ornate language. I think they can be expressed very simply, clearly, and directly. And that's the whole point. I think we have to be able to connect at that heart level with these wonderful truths that are really life-changing. But the key always is to bring them to bear on the practical challenges of daily living, to bring them out of the realm of esoteric theology. How can I apply this in this particular challenge I'm going through in health or finance or human relationships? And that's the real acid test there of the validity of a spiritual teaching, is can it be applied in the situations at hand successfully, so that there is a change in what you're experiencing, or in your bodily health, or in the nature of your relationships.
I wanted to share with you a story about Dr. Fox. He was very influential in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that several, the first big book that was read at meetings was Sermon on the Mount.
Oh, wonderful.
So they would read that out loud and then have people comment on it at meetings before they went ahead and they wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But his forgiveness prayer is in the big book. So we have, as a movement, we have influenced, again, the 12-step movement, which again is has healed and has brought forth, healed lives all over the planet. So, so it's it's in a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize. So how did you then answer the call to ministry?
Well, I think it evolved quite naturally. Many years ago, when I was raising my children, of course, wherever I lived, I always found the local Unity Center or group or spiritual group. And I began taking classes offered at Unity of Fairfax in the years when I was living in Alexandria, Virginia. And then at a certain point, I had realized I had to go out actually to Unity World headquarters in Lee Summit, Missouri, outside of Kansas City. And at that time, 2 different tracks were offered. You could take the ministerial track or the counselor and teacher track, which is what I took at that time. I went out and studied at Unity Village for several years, completing that whole wonderful program, taught by some remarkably enlightened people whose tapes I still have and listen to today. And it evolved from there. I wrote poetry for Unity Magazine, began writing short articles for a Unity seminary, which at that time had hoped to be affiliated with Unity World headquarters, but eventually was not. So I realized to go farther, to proceed farther with what I wanted to do, I really needed the ordination of ministerial credentials there. So at this time, I was able to have all of my work done at Unity School accepted at Emerson Theological Institute by the wonderful Angelo Pizzello, went through his ministerial and doctoral programs there. And at that time, it just seemed that the logical next step was to have the ordination of being a minister so I could continue writing, counseling, teaching, and so forth. So I've been on the faculty at Emerson for a number of years, and I have 3 classes there, one of which is based on my own book, my first book, The Principles of New Thought. Then I have one based on Marianne Williamson's book on love and healing. And finally, a book by Thomas Troward, Bible Mystery and Bible Meaning. So I teach those in the distance learning program, which is a wonderful thing. If you're housebound or a busy mother, a busy person, anyone who may not be able to get to a local center or attend in person, you can actually get your credentials on the internet and over the way on the internet. And that's actually how I did it and went through my sequence. So I continue to be active in that, and currently have 2 books now with 2 different publishers. Both are metaphysical, but one is the children's book that you mentioned. The other evolved out of a blog called Spiritual Seed Thoughts, Applying Truth Principles in Daily Life, because that is always the key, as I said. How applicable are these beliefs? Are they airy-fairy? Are they just too esoteric, too remote to have any relevance to the problems of daily living? Or can we actually use them in a way to affect positive change in our lives? So that's the premise that I began with. And that's always the test for me of where it's at, so to speak, as far as the validity and value and power of a spiritual teaching.
Yes. So if you wonder what you stumbled onto this evening, hello there. This is the Friday evening fireside chat here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Pastor Michael Mangus, and it is my privilege to have on this evening the Reverend Dr. April Moncrieff, who is author and also the teacher of teachers at Emerson Theological. And that's wonderful, is that you get to give back to all the advanced students, whether they're going into ministry or not. I think that having individuals like yourself, again, teaching wonderful spiritual truths like you are, I think is absolutely wonderful. Let's talk about the principles of New Thought. What prompted you to write that book?
Well, what prompted me was essentially that I have felt, and again, this is just a deeply personal view, that many of the traditional teachings of so-called mainstream Christianity have missed the mark in some ways, that haven't quite either gone deep enough or perhaps in some instances have actually misconstrued or misinterpreted the teachings of Jesus, with a great emphasis on sin in mainstream religion and having to be saved and so forth. And what does that really mean for each of us? Are we really damned if we don't apply these principles or don't accept Christianity in the way that it is presented in the mainstream churches? So I took a number of the main doctrines of Christianity, such as the Trinity, salvation, what is it, and so forth. And I would say took them to a deeper level of interpretation of what does the Trinity really mean? How do we pray in God as 3 persons and so forth? In more metaphysical terms, we think of it as, let's say, body, mind, and spirit. Mind, idea, expression. There are other levels of thought in the ways that we can interpret the 3 persons of the Trinity, so to speak. And what really is salvation? Back to Emmett Fox for a moment. Salvation, as Dr. Fox presented it, is the experience of life in its fullness, in every aspect, in abundance of living.
What a wonderful definition of salvation.
Yeah, rather than thinking of us as doomed or damned, that salvation, which really means total well-being, even the Latin root of the word, that we can come to look at salvation as a fullness of expression on every level of our being, and every level of life. So as I went through thinking what I was taught in Presbyterian Sunday school and then later in the Episcopal Church, I said, nope, they haven't quite got it. And just from my point of view, and from the teachings of unity, divine science, and science of mind, I came to see it a whole other level operating here. And so when I wrote the book, that's how I interpreted each chapter. What does resurrection really mean? Was it limited to one experience, one individual several thousand years ago? Or is resurrection a process that we actually see over and over, reenacted in nature every spring? And of course, as you know, Charles Fillmore believed in actually physical regeneration, the resurrection of the body to a degree where it was not necessary to experience what we call physical death. Right. So I just love the idea of resurrection, that we can actually reprogram by right thought, actually raising our vibrational frequency, our level of thought, and therefore the bodily atoms and molecules are impacted by that, and they show that forth in a greater measure of physical vitality and health and energy. And likewise, every area of our life is impacted by our thought. It all begins with thought. Thought is the real creative force. There is no other. As Edgar Cayce said, mind is ever the builder. So mind is always cause, the level of cause and causation. And physical experience, or what we call the material world or the material realm, is always effect. So we're always dealing with the laws of cause and effect in every way and in every level of our life. So we have to kind of if we want to make changes in our lives, we have to really lay the axe at the root of the tree, as I think it was Melinda Kramer, one of the early science of mind type teachers. I think she was actually divine science.
Yes.
In other words, we have to get back to square one, back to the drawing board. That's where, back to the blueprint we're creating. That's where alteration and change have to take place. So that all happens at the level of consciousness. And we make that alteration there. That radiates outward. Everything radiates outward from center to circumference. So we don't, if we want to see definitive change, we don't go out to the perimeters of our life and try to enforce change there. We bring it home. We bring it back to the heart center, the mind center, the thought. And that's where we begin to correct things. And then we find that radiates outward in wondrous ways to change even the most intransigent situations, begin to reflect that.
Did you receive any letters from anyone just kind of challenging you on taking Christian topics and then going ahead and giving the viewpoint of New Thought?
I haven't had letters. I occasionally get, when I've put something up on Facebook from one of the blogs, which is now in this manuscript on spiritual seed thoughts, someone has taken me to task that that's not Christian, or I need to be saved, or something like that. So anyway, I think we're saved one thought at a time.
Yes.
As we save our thinking, as we make that correction there at the level of thought. And I think that's where salvation truly lies. And so forth. I believe heaven and hell are states of consciousness that outpicture as particular environments and so forth. But change always begins at the level of mind and heart and thought. So that's kind of where I come from in my ministry, my counseling sessions, and my writings.
So we're going through an interesting time here with COVID and with all that's going on. And the people that I come in contact with are people who have kind of have lost a sense of peace. They've kind of gotten caught up in the world of effects. So what counsel do you give them to go back to center, to regain their peace?
Well, that is a good question. And it's also fraught. All of today's issues seem to be unusually fraught with controversy, very strong emotions either way, to the point where expressing them one way or the other seems to have rather a divisive effect in our society rather than a unifying effect. So as you said earlier, Pastor Michael, I think that we have to really turn within here to see what is the right course of action for me to follow, whether it's considering terminating a pregnancy or whether it's, do I get the vaccine or not? I think we have to do some very deep inner work. We can assess all the facts, set them aside for the moment, respect the sources of science and technology, medicine, and then simply go within, ponder very deeply. Is this the right way for me to go? Should I postpone it? Should I do a little more research? Or see if you get, with me, I either will get sort of a nudge, a green light, go for it, this is the right course of action, or I will get almost a literal feeling of a staying hand on my shoulder, like, wait a moment, don't be too hasty, think it through more deeply before you make a decision that is irrevocable in some cases. So once again, that's what I say, turn within, as Unity sometimes has said, first to God, then to man, meaning any human avenues, as God directs. That's our first step, turning within, getting that clear sense of what is the right course of action for me, and then going forth in that awareness.
And I think one of the things that we can teach our parishioners or students in New Thought is the whole idea of, and I've gotten this from being in Dr. Tom Sanar's classes this past couple of years, is the whole idea of really practicing the presence of God.
Yeah.
That when we really come into again, to spend time daily in the presence of God, which again is not something out there, it's something that's already within us that we can tap into. That when we go ahead and we commune with that presence, then we have knowledge and insight and wisdom that we would not necessarily have from this mind. So I think that, again, that and this is one of the things that I have talked to with people who have said, well, all you guys do is you talk about thought. Well, no, you have to go a little bit deeper and understand that New Thought is a mystical teaching, and that the mysticism is, that personal relationship with the divine. It's already within us, waiting to be tapped into.
That's right.
So it's not something that, again, that it's something to be experienced. And again, like you said, Charles Myrtle Fillmore, Ernest Holmes, all the divine science people, that what they wanted you to do is the reason they called it a science was because there were specific techniques that you could use to actually prove this.
That's exactly right.
And so that's what I do with my students, is I really kick them in the rear and say, you need to use this really to change your life. We have 1 minute here. Yeah. So tell us about all of your wonderful books here on Amazon. I have it, the page up here, Principles of New Thought. There's also some wonderful other short topics: Raising the Temple, Victim or Victor, Spiritual and Physical Healing, Illuminated Consciousness, lots of other wonderful books. Now, these others, they have an interesting history. Now, you wrote them specifically for Emerson, is that correct?
No, I actually wrote them for what turned out to be a rather short-lived seminary, first called Unity Seminary, kind of based in Florida, then called Fillmore Seminary. Well, my understanding is that Unity World Headquarters, at least Summit, did not appreciate someone co-opting the term unity or considering themselves a part of the mainstream unity teaching. I didn't know that.
How dare they?
I know, exactly. Sort of preempting that. So I had these, I did all this reading mostly by Unity authors and others, wrote the booklets, and then had nowhere to put them. So at that point, when I sent them along to Dr. Pizzello and so forth at Emerson, because I was applying at that time for the religious studies program, the master's and the doctorate there, I just self-published them on Amazon myself, because I do quote extensively from New Thought writers, primarily Unity, but also others as well. So I thought, well, I think these are worth reading for some folks. And so that's how I went about it. I thought maybe someone can still benefit from them, even if it wasn't Unity School who published them or acknowledged them.
Absolutely. So go online. If you go to Amazon, you'll find out more about Reverend Dr. April Moncrieff and her wonderful book called The Principles of New Thought, and all of her wonderful books, including Marvin the Money Cat, which is a wonderful book too. We've been putting up, if you'd like to get in contact with Dr. April, her email address is
AFM, lowercase letters, AFM as in Mary, 770 at Comcast.net.
AFM, that's 770 at Comcast.net. You've been you did wonderful this evening. She was telling, Dr. April was saying, I'm a little nervous. You did absolutely wonderful this evening. What a wonderful example, what a wonderful light that you exhibit here in New Thought. Thank you so very much for all of your work and service.
I'm glad I could join you tonight and look forward to perhaps another time.
That would be absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Dr. April Moncrieff, who's on staff at the Emerson Theological Institute and also a wonderful author. You can go on Amazon and get more information. Well, it's time for us to go here. Just a reminder again that if you go on newthoughtmedia.org, you will get a lot more information about our schedule here and also about how you can participate by donating. Your donations really go a long way to really help us take this powerful message that Dr. April was talking about to the whole world. And we have this opportunity with this teaching and with this technology. So please go on ntmedia.org/donate and please give a generous donation. On behalf of all of us here at the Friday Evening Fireside Chat, produced professionally by Diego Reyes, this is Pastor Michael Mangus.
Good night.
Wishing you, and also Dr. April, wishing you a very pleasant good evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks for joining us this evening for Friday's Fireside Chat with Pastor Michael Mangus. Join us again next week at 8 Eastern, 6 Mountain for more spiritual conversations for today. For more information and replays of past shows, please visit the New Thought Radio and Media Network's Facebook page. Until next week, may God bless you richly and abundantly.